You're watching It's Life Live with your hosts, Juan Lee and Oliver Marcel. Come join us for enriching, enlightening, encouraging, and thought-provoking conversation. Let's go.
Hey, what's up, Oliver?
What's happening? How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing good until I try to look through my glasses.
I'm sitting here making sure I share this on my LinkedIn. Making sure I'm sharing it.
Well, hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. It's Wednesday night. It's 7 o'clock, and we're back. It's Life Live. And tonight, well, let me just tell you who we are. My name is Juan Lee, and this is Oliver Marcel, and we're here. And it's sponsored by Clear Journey, a nonprofit organization that supports individuals and families that are looking for information, looking for answers to challenges in life. And what we do here at Clear Journey is provide education and resources so that you can navigate your life to its fullest. And so if you want to have more information, you can go over to clearjourney.org and learn more about what we do. So tonight, we are going to be talking about one of those 8 areas. And by the way, we're going to be dealing with those 8. The one area this month is going to be about career and employment. And it's really, again, if you understand our thumbnail, it talks about the attitudes. And this is basically the beginning part of being able to talk about unlocking your dream career. And before we get started into that, if you have not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, by all means, you can do clearjourney.org, or you can go to juanleaderauthor.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel. But that's where we are. This month, we're going to be talking about employment and career. And what does that all mean? You know, how do you determine it? How do you find out what that is, Oliver? What do you think? What do you think that is?
Man, unlocking your dream career. So I'll tell you, without even touching anything that's actually going to be talked about,
Mm-hmm.
when I think about that, just on face value of those words, um, I think about like some of the dream careers that we had as kids, and how unrealistic our parents or guardians thought they were, right? So, like, for example, I want to be, uh, you hear comedians talk about, I want to be a comedian, and they're like, you want to what? Like, you you want to tell jokes? Like, what are you talking about? Or like, I want to be, a rap star. I want to be whatever, right? And these are careers, obviously, that people have, but because we've kind of put ourselves in a particular box, that dream doesn't seem a reality. So when you said that, that's kind of the first thing I went to. And I know that's not necessarily where we're going, but
No, but
um,
you know what? But you know what? That's the message of this whole episode
mm,
is that why can't you have the dream?
why can't you unlock it? Right.
Why can't you have that dream job, that
Hmm.
dream career? And
Yeah.
and and what happens though, it's very interesting, and I'm curious as to whether or not you're going to expose the reason why we don't get to realize those dream careers.
You know what?
What's your thought?
I think there are a number of reasons, but just based on what I just talked about, I think often what we do, or what many people do, what many parents and guardians, grandparents do, family members, etc., they project their fears or their disappointments in a particular area onto whoever it is that's dreaming, right? So that'll never work, or that's too hard, or you don't have enough money, whatever the case is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when we attempt to go unlock those dreams, people tell us proverbially, you don't have the keys you need to unlock that. So why are you even chasing towards that? You don't have the keys to unlock that. You talk about unlocking this dream, that's way beyond your control. You know what I'm saying? It's a deadbolt, and you got a skeleton key. Like, that ain't gonna work. And
But
so we often just walk away from it at that point.
and that's you interesting. You give the analogy of what exactly we're going to be talking about tonight is giving you the keys to unlock your dream
Mm,
career, your
right.
dream career. And see, and that's the whole point I'm saying, the power of influence is what prevents you from not having your keys.
Mm, yeah, I agree with that.
Because you just brought up the reason that people don't possess the keys to their own dreams because of influence.
Hmm.
We're influenced in so many different ways because here's the very interesting one. Many of us decide on careers for one or two or three different reasons.
Hmm.
One of them is because of somebody else's expectations.
Hmm. Yep.
Another one is because of money.
Hmm.
And one of the other ones, it could be because you don't have any other choices.
That was the best option presented to you at the time.
Yeah, I mean, and remember we talked about, and I guess we didn't talk about this since we've been on the episode, but this all has to do with what stage you are,
Hmm.
what stage of life you're in. And because if you're in your 20s and 30s, this is going to hit a little bit differently than if you're in your 50s or 40s or 50s.
Hmm.
It's going to hit a little different. But the fact is that it's never too late. And I'm going to contest. I'm going to be that person and say, okay, it's never too late,
Hmm.
because this we're doing right now what I've desired to do for the most part of my life, and that
Hmm.
is just to share from my heart,
Yep.
just to help people. And this avenue wasn't even available when I was in my 20s.
Yeah. Yeah.
This wasn't even available. I've always wanted to speak. I've always wanted to talk, but
Mm.
this wasn't you had to be, in this, you had to be something to
Hmm.
be, so somebody could see you.
Hmm.
Now, if don't nobody see you, you don't exist.
Mm.
I mean, you really don't exist if don't nobody see you now, because it's at every turn. I mean, it's an opportunity to you be seen. It's out there. We
Yeah.
have it now. But this is the keys are very interesting. Of what you're saying is that, yeah, they didn't have the keys, but that's what we're going to give them tonight. We're going to give the keys to your dream career, and it starts with being able to make a self-assessment. That's the very first process about being able to do it. And this is where you got to be honest with yourself. Be purely and purely honest with yourself as it relates to, what are my skills?
Hmm.
What are my strengths? And what are my weaknesses? See, many times we don't want to engage on the weaknesses because, see, again, all the weaknesses is identification of where you need to be strengthened.
True.
That's okay. But if you don't, you perpetrating saying that you got something that you ain't got, that's not going to help you long term.
Yeah. That's
You
a
know
setup
that
for disaster.
absolutely. So, but then identify your interests, your passions, and your hobbies.
Hmm.
See, all of those things, when you told your parents those things, that I was dreaming about being a comedian because that's what I feel. I like that. Okay, that's honesty. That's being true to yourself.
Hmm.
And I'm saying, okay, that's where it starts. Consider your values and what's important to you in a career, such as the work life balance, the salary, and the job security.
Mhm.
Tell me, Oliver, which one you think is most important to you, for you, in that scenario?
Well,
With
at this stage in my life, the what's most important to me right now is the balance piece, or the harm. I call it harmony, the harmony
Mhm.
piece. Um, I have lived through a great portion of my life being driven by the salary piece. Um, if I'm just being 100% transparent. But the thing that's important to me, and here's why I'm glad you said that, because I think an important thing to also consider is, and we've talked about this on the podcast, is what is your definition of success as well.
Mhm.
So you have this dream job. What's your definition of success in that area? Because that will then fuel the things that become prominent as it relates to priorities. If success means me living in a $5 million house and driving, $300,000 car, then the money's gonna have to be high up there on the priority list. But
Mhm.
then it does that come at the expense of anything else that you mentioned? And I think just that self-assessment piece is a good place to really flush all of that out.
Yeah, I mean, because here's the thing: it's interesting because when you said success, um, how do you define it? How do you define success in the sense that, and it's interesting because should it be different for everybody in the sense of what you get from success? What you get from
Hmm.
success?
Okay. So very, very cleverly placed question, wording wise. I
Mhm.
would say, based on the wording you used, no, it should not be different for everyone based on what you get. Now, the proponents that create what you get might be different.
Absolutely, absolutely. But the difference in there is that there is a commonality in this success, that we all should basically have the same thing. It
Hmm.
should the same thing should come out of it, and
Right.
it makes you it brings back to my memory, a position that I had, a job I had shortly after I got out the military, and I worked for a manufacturing company, and it was run by a young man who was highly educated in an area that is very was very new, um and he carried himself as one that had everything,
Hmm.
had everything, and it was intimidating to work for him, to be honest with you. But what he taught me is what was important
Hmm.
as it relates to being successful. And at the end of the day, he was no more successful than I was.
Hmm.
He lived in a well affluent neighborhood, drove extremely expensive vehicles. He was probably at least 10 years my junior at the time. Um, and he was living extremely extravagantly. Um, but there was no difference in success for me and him. And here's the point. And that was from my perspective.
Hmm.
It was probably, he would probably say something different. But at
Hmm.
the end of the day, what really matters? What are the things that really matter?
Hmm.
You know, if you drive a car that costs you six figures versus you driving a car that you can afford, Now, I'm not saying that he couldn't afford the six figure, but if you want to drive a car that's six figure that you can't afford at the expense of everything else, that's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's not about those things that appear that looks
Hmm.
like he has something that I don't have. But when it gets to the end of the day, in his car and my car, I get, if the destination is what we're talking about, and if I'm going to the same place he can get to with his car as I can get to mine. That's an attitude.
Yeah.
That's an
I,
attitude.
yeah. I think more self-assessment in that regard is taking place today than 5 years ago. I think the pandemic, well, it's evident that the pandemic put many people in a position where they had the time to self assess and realized that some things that they deemed important as it related to their success were just not so. Hence the great resignation. You know what? Yeah, I just, I listen, I'm making 100K, but I love being at home with my family, and I just had a great opportunity to impact, executive women and help them live out their days. So now that's what I'm going to do because that's where I find fulfillment. And a lot of people have been funneled into that period of self assessment through the pandemic.
Hey, and therein lies the point I'm saying. But even in the process of doing that, we still got to be honest with ourselves
Hmm.
and understand that, in this day and time, the money is not even the issue. It's all about fulfillment,
Yeah.
because they've now made that transition and not skipped a beat as it relates to the income.
Mm.
In some cases, they haven't skipped a beat, and especially in this digital age, shucks, there's people who've never even experienced corporate America that's doing very well in the digital space.
Yeah. True.
So it's that, I think that this generation or this time that we're in, people are this self-assessment is very relevant and very intentional, because people are doing what they want to do,
Mm.
for the most part. And especially because, and that's why I said it depends on what stage of life you're in. And this generation, that's this millennial generation that's in their 30s right now, so to speak. um I think they in this regard, I think they've latched on to something,
Mm.
because they're really about what they want to do.
Hmm.
They
Yeah.
really are in what they want to do. And and in that same vein, um you know I don't know if I can say much more than that. It's just they're doing what they want to do.
Yeah.
um the other one is number two, was set clear goals. Short term, long term career goals. Determine success, what it looks like to you. Is that what we were talking about?
Hmm.
Those are things that, you know the long term one is the one I think that a lot of us miss out on. And because if I look at my own career path, so to speak, I had several different careers,
Hmm.
and I did all of them. Shucks, I did many of them for 10 years or so, and then I did a lot of them while I was doing the same ones. My thing was is that I was always wanting to learn more.
Hmm.
That was the motivation between for me leaving and moving and going into other careers, was that I was always wanting to learn more and add value. If I couldn't add value, or I didn't feel that my services were necessary anymore, I didn't hang around. And so I made the moves that allowed me to continue to grow.
Yeah.
And that's important. And that was the motto, that was the long-term objective that I had going on, because I wanted to be here one day. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know where here was at that point.
Mm-hmm.
On that journey, I didn't know where here was. But I knew if I kept on growing, kept on growing, that I would be here. I would be where I really wanted to be, and that was to being able to share with people. Um, Other one was research. Number three is research. Um, Research what you're looking for. What it is you're looking for, industry roles, companies. Um, Conduct informational interviews, professionals in the field of interest. And then here again, utilize online services, resources, job boards, career assessment, to gather information. Are there any of these things that, have you ever experienced any of these as it relates to, as you've gone? How many different careers have you had?
Um, so if you want to call the jobs that I had careers, then a plethora.
Well, and that's interesting you say that, because jobs and careers, people have an what is your assessment of a job versus a career? Because I'll be honest with you. Um, I'm gonna let you go. Tell me what your assessment of a job
Yeah,
versus
so I,
a
I
career.
would say I would say it, in its very state crude definition. A job for me was a just a means to an end. I needed some money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my father's not going to buy these $200 sneakers. Or in one case, this is a real world scenario. A bike that I wanted was like, yeah, I'm not paying for that. Okay, I gotta figure something out. So let me go do this thing for a little while, make this money. Right at that point, I had a decision to make. Once I bought the bike, do I want to keep doing it, or I accomplished the goal, so whatever. And so that's one end of the spectrum. I think the other end of the spectrum is, and I'll be honest, man. Well, no, you asked how many have I had? If I would say the answer to that question is two, because there are two instances in my life where I was intentional about what you said about learning. I'll say two to three. Two of them are very related, um, but where I was very intentional about not only learning. I'm gonna use the same words you use: learning and adding value. When I was trying to get the sneakers, I wasn't trying to learn nothing or add value. I was trying to get a paycheck. Let's just be clear. And then at one point, I had worked in a sneaker store so I could kill two birds with one stone, get the paycheck and the sneakers,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I could get a discount. But then, when I got into education, and these two are very related. I was in education. I was also in some level of crisis management and youth work as well. Early on, when I first got married, I was intentional about figuring out how to move the needle in that area. How can I be of service in that area? How can I grow in that area? How can I become impactful? And then that led me to the IT space. And that's the space I lived in until I jumped out into uh, full blown entrepreneurship. So that's my definition. One is a means to
Well,
an end. The other is you're trying to learn, grow, be of service, provide, be influential and impactful.
you said it very interestingly, um, but it's interesting, and I think we've talked about this before. At 15 years old, a job is for the purpose in which you said it
Hmm.
was a means to an end, but it wasn't the means to eating.
Mm.
It wasn't the means to keeping a roof over your head.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the means to providing for and hear me out when I say this, because the mentality or the mindset of just doing it for a paycheck,
Mm-hmm.
as you enter into different stages of your life, if you don't take the initiative and the intentionality to continue to grow, you'll remain in that state of just trying to get a paycheck.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. And I would even argue the fact that even after it becomes about keeping a roof over your head and eating and providing for family, that it can still be a means to an end if you're not doing that. Because I've lived that.
Well,
I can tell you several instances after having a family where I was like, the only reason I'm doing this is so that these lights come on when the switch comes on. I could care less outside of that. You know what I mean? Like,
and that's that. But here's the thing: when we get in that space,
mhm,
it's not because we have our dream job or that
no,
desire to want to make a difference. No,
not at
but
all.
here's what I'm saying though: it doesn't mean you can't, no matter where you are.
I agree with that.
I don't care. Here's the point, and this is something that I really think that a lot of people missed during the pandemic.
Hmm.
You're gonna tell me that the mailman, the garbage collector, the UPS driver, the truck driver, the grocery store clerks, just a few
Hmm.
that are job oriented, quote unquote jobs,
Hmm.
that aren't purposeful and meaningful careers, that were they were essential to our survival during the pandemic. And if the people that are doing them, why can't they have that same mentality, the same concept of value as the doctors have, as the
I,
lawyers have?
I think they can, and I think you're speaking to it. I think what it is, you know, if we, if I were to now augment my definition based on where the conversation is going, right? It's not so much about what the assignment is as much as it is my mentality and mindset around the assignment. Because UPS can be a career, Giant can be a career, McDonald's can be a career. You name it. It don't matter what you name it. All of the stuff that I've done in my life over the course of my life could have been a career, but my mindset was not career oriented.
And that's what this is all about here.
Mm-hmm.
This all about getting your drug is being true and honest to yourself, not comparing yourself with anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, understanding whatever level that you choose to be happy at, or you happy to feel to be fulfilled at, it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. But it doesn't mean that you have to stop at that level. You can continue to grow.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I'm trying to impart here is that where you start has nothing to do with where you end up.
Mm-hmm.
You determine that.
Yeah.
I determine that. As long as we're honest and understanding that we're wanting to always improve, grow, and develop.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this is all about. I mean, I have a list of things that all it talks about is those things. Is at the end of the day, you're always trying to advance and to move the needle
Mm-hmm.
in yourself,
Yeah.
for yourself. Um, Number 4, skill and education.
Yeah. Perfect segue into that. Yeah.
Assess whether what your needs are to require new skills or further your education to pursue your ideal career.
Hmm.
And see, all these things are is as long as you are desiring,
Hmm.
it doesn't matter where you start.
I think this is where, and again, I'm speculating. So if folk are watching this or watching the replay, definitely feel free to put in your 2 cents. I think this this piece right here, number three was research. So I'd say somewhere between research, between three and four, is where many folk disconnect from the unlocking process. And I'll give you an example, just using myself. That way,
Hmm.
nobody feels like they're being talked about. So I have been a music. I was going to say I was, because I don't really play anymore, but I was a musician for a long portion of my life, up until right before the pandemic. Um, Playing for churches, choirs, groups, you name it. I'm playing all over the place. When I lived in Michigan, played for a bunch of people. Came here, back here, home, played. Throughout that process, all of those years, a dream of mine, if we're talking about dream careers, a dream of mine was to be a music producer. I wanted to be that guy who is producing the biggest hip hop artists and R&B artists and house music and all of that, right? And to this day, I can create all of that stuff. You ask me to put a house track together, I got you, no problem. You ask me to put a banging hip hop track together, got you, no problem. Where, if I'm really being honest with myself, where I think the unlocking process halted, or where I stutter stepped, is between three and four. So
Hmm.
I started the research process. What is it going to take to get into the industry? What kinds of things do I have to do? And as I ran into some roadblocks here and there, it would stop that research process, or it would stop that skills development and education process, to the point where I I'm not going to say if I had, I don't know, because I can't see the future. I don't know if I had been a little bit more intentional and a little bit more hungry and a little bit more aggressive, would I be there? I don't know. I was able to do some things over the course of my life, but not to the degree that I would have liked to. And if I'm being honest, I would say now, looking back, because 2020 before hindsight on my shirt, I got to be honest, that this is where I feel like a lot of people stutter step, because either they do not pursue the education they need, they don't they're not intentional about developing the skills that they have, or they rest on the laurels of the skills where they are currently developed, and that doesn't end up being enough, or they don't do enough research.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is you nailed it in the sense of the need for that step
Hmm.
is to get over that hump, and that hump
Yep.
right there could be a long journey.
Yes, and even if you get over it, the the thing with education and research and skill development is that one hump leads to the next one. And that's why I think people stutter step, because you may do what you need to get to the next benchmark,
Hmm.
but there's another one after that. So you
But
may need to learn more, and you may need to develop a new skill or add to that, right? Which is why we have continuing education credits and all of these
what
different things that allow you to further your skill development.
and that's exactly what the need for that is that what you have today is not good enough for tomorrow.
Hmm.
And that's why this journey that we're on called life, it requires us to continue to grow.
Right.
And this is just one of those additional processes that we understand the goal is at the end of this is our dream, unlocking our dream career.
Hmm.
But the things that we're talking about are relevant and evident in every aspect of our lives. It's just that this is what we're talking about tonight, and
Right.
as it relates to how it can assist you in not only having a job per se or a career, but that you are identifying, you're doing what you identify with.
Hmm.
And that's intentional. That's intentional. And many of us don't get the opportunity because of these steps that we're talking about. If you don't know these steps, you can't perform these steps. And many people, in many cases, that end up doing what they do, this one right here you're talking about, skills and education, is the one out of every one on here that eventually gets them over the hump. And it could be, in many cases, not even knowing it intentionally. This is where, if you do the proper self assessment, you will enjoy the skills and education.
Hmm.
Because let's just keep it real. Athletes go from 1 to 3 or to 4,
Hmm.
and all they do is repeat 4 and 4 and 4 and 4 and 4 and 4 until they make it. Artists repeat 4 and 4 and 4. Musicians, all of these
Hmm.
things that are, they get entrenched in what it is that they, and they keep
Hmm.
learning, play basketball week after week, month after month, year after year, and they get better and they get better. Now, will they get to be Michael Jordan or probably not? But my point is that the recipe is the same.
Hmm. Yeah. The recipe is the same, and it is necessary to your advancement.
Absolutely.
Yeah. because the,
Absolutely.
because the rest of the, you privied me to the list, right? So the rest, everything that comes after this, in my opinion, on the list is, they are things that now become action items based on your skill development level and your education level.
It's what you have built up,
Hmm.
what you have access to,
Hmm.
and it's what I like to say is that you're able to operate inside of your abilities,
Right.
and then you're able to present them
Hmm.
to others.
Yeah, this ushers in, number four ushers in uh what I would refer to as the execution period.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it falls into, here's the next one for this process, is networking.
Hmm.
Now, most people think about networking as something that entrepreneurs do, self-employed people do. They network.
Hmm.
But all of us should be networking. All of us should be networking. What is it? Building professional networking by attending industry events, joining professional organizations, connecting with peers, and linked on LinkedIn. Look on LinkedIn. But here's my point. It all refers back to that self-assessment,
Hmm.
because, and then it goes back to what our skills are that we're linking up to based on our skills.
Hmm.
That thing that we've made that honest assessment of and developed. Now we're going to network it. In all that we do, we're going to be leading with our skills.
Hmm.
The elevator pitch, our our whatever our skill set is, we're going to lead with that.
Hmm.
Number 6 is gain experiences. Now, this one I think is so important, and it's so easy to do with the right attitude. because what it talks about is look for internships, part-time jobs, volunteer opportunities, and desired fields to gain practical experience.
Hmm.
This is what most people don't realize, that experience in many cases gets you over the hump. In some cases, experience, not getting paid for it at the beginning, just experience,
Hmm.
getting your feet wet, getting to understand what it is that the industry is doing and how it operates. Even though it's something that you want to get in, you've never had an experience. That's probably the biggest problem with going to school, is that when you get out into corporate America and stuff like that, they be like, how much experience you got? You got a bunch of book knowledge but no experience. How do we translate that? How do we get volunteer? Do something that you don't need to pay, you need the experience.
Hmm.
Have you ever had a volunteer? Have you ever
I
had
have.
a internship or anything like that?
I have. Yep. I've done volunteer work and I've had an internship as well. Long time ago. Did some apprentice stuff back in the day as well. Yeah.
I had an internship when I was in high school.
Hmm.
It was interesting. I had an internship with the police department.
Okay.
With the police department, that was enlightening. That was that was, that
I
was
can
very
imagine.
enlightening.
I can
Um,
imagine.
but yeah, as a matter of fact, I had a couple of internships
Mm-hmm.
while I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
We had that as a curriculum,
Okay.
as a part of the curriculum. As you could, my senior year, I had internships,
Hmm.
um, and it was really good to get exposure to. But what I didn't know was that how to use them.
Okay.
I didn't know how to use an internship.
Hmm.
It was about the relationships. I didn't know how to foster the relationships.
Got you.
And as a result, I looked at it as, why am I doing it? I was doing it for credit.
Hmm.
And so that was the only reason that I was doing it, because I wasn't getting any money.
Hmm.
And I was thinking, dog, if it wasn't for this credit, I surely wouldn't be doing it. So I didn't really understand the value
Hmm.
of the relationship that I was creating by being a part of the organization.
Got you.
And
Hmm.
that's ultimately what that is all about, is gaining experience and networking. Number 7 is creating career action plan. Again, um, that only comes as a result of being aware of the industry, of the things that you want to accomplish.
Hmm.
If you don't know what that is, um, it's not gonna you can't create this plan.
Right. And sometimes creating that plan involves you getting somebody else involved, somebody who can help, a career advisor, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. um, One of the other one, and these are more traditional: update your resume and online presence. In this day and age, your online presence is probably everything.
Hmm.
It's probably everything.
Agreed.
I don't matter in what area you're going into, or what you're doing, your online presence it's probably everything. Um, Number 9, apply strategically. Um, Align your careers along with your goals and your interests. Customize your letters and your resumes for your applications in those areas of your interest.
Hmm.
And that's more of the traditional thing, is that your resume is your calling card. And so, but for every opportunity, you need to have done the research for that organization,
Hmm.
so that it applies specifically to that particular organization.
Yeah.
You're going to say something?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Number 10, interview and evaluate. Um, That right there is learning about who you want to do work with, who you want to work with. I think many of us look at the opportunity and say, okay, how much money is it don't make? And I don't care about what the organization is about.
Hmm. That happens quite often.
Yeah.
and,
But
and that goes back to mentality as well, right? And I'm not faulting anybody who comes at it from that approach, because sometimes circumstances put us in a position to look through a particular lens, right? So if you got bills to pay and you in debt, and there's just some things that are bearing down on you from that regard, it is going to shape the lens with which you look through this on. So there are some people who are like, wow, I'm about to land this dream salary,
well,
which may
again,
not necessarily align with where I would love to be at this time.
well,
But
again, again, that conversation is again having to do with the stage you are and
mhm,
whether or not um, your dream career is attainable.
mhm,
Because the steps that I'm talking about, they're not they're not like something that um, you can like take them or leave them
mhm,
if you want your career, your dream career. It's all going to be about a sacrifice.
mhm,
And if the sacrifice is not there, whether it, when I say the sacrifice is not there, it's whether or not the sacrifice, you can afford to have the sacrifice.
mhm,
You know what I mean? It's
mhm,
like you got bills to pay. Am I going to be able to sacrifice to get my dream career
mhm.
because you said the bills need to be paid?
Right.
There's not like there's no shortcut. You know, when you have to do the homework or you have to do the work to present yourself, to present your resume, to be where you want to be, there's a great deal of sacrifice that has to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
And if you're not willing to do the sacrifice, intentionally or unintentionally,
Hmm.
it doesn't change anything. It's just now you know versus not knowing.
Yeah. I think too, though, you know, I think the mindset piece is very important, because there are people, and I know of them, who will go through the entire process, sacrifice and all, because it will land them the money, but not necessarily the fulfillment.
Well, see, here's the point. Uh, If you're not true to yourself, it can't get you fulfillment. Fulfillment only comes with being true to yourself.
Right. And that's what I'm saying, because there are some people who still, at this point, and I think there always will be people who are going to be willing to trade the fulfillment. They'll be willing to go through all of the steps, because they know that from a strategic and an implementation standpoint, these steps are going to lead them in a certain direction. But that
Mm-hmm.
direction is not necessarily about their fulfillment as much as it is about the bottom line. And
Well,
they
you're
are willing to trade the fulfillment for the bottom line.
yeah. See, but this is the point I'm saying. That's why you're absolutely right, and that's the real reason why this thing I started this thing so long ago because there's only one way to get to that end. It's the only difference is to the motivation.
Hmm. Okay.
It's the motivation. And
Yeah.
if you don't want to be fulfilled, that doesn't change the fact if you do those other 11, 10 steps, you'll
Hmm.
get to if what you're after is outcome and money, it will get you there.
Hmm.
The difference between your dream job and fulfill your dream job and um The bag, so to speak,
Hmm.
is your intention. It's your motivation. But the steps are the same. The steps are the same. You
Okay.
you can't avoid you can't avoid number four. Like I said, I don't care if your intention is to be fulfilled or to be rich. You ain't avoid it. Now, here's the point. Can you be fulfilled without being rich?
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, ask me that 10 years ago, I'd have said no. But that's just because where my head is at. Matter of fact, if I'm being honest on this entrepreneurial journey that I'm on, because you asked me about careers and I said two, but there's probably been more now that I think about it. If you count where I am now, that's another path.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the life of an entrepreneur is that journey. And I don't know if anybody else would be willing to be honest with this. I'll just go out on a limb. Maybe it might be just me, it might not. But this journey sometimes causes you to question what side of this fence, this conversation fence, I land on. Because what I want, what I'm after is fulfillment. But when the client roster is low, so is the money. And then now you're thinking, you're looking at, things through a very different lens, which can be, somewhat uh, cloudy. It can become clouded at times, right? So I think if some of us are honest with ourselves, we probably have to be intentional about pursuing our fulfillment in conjunction with making sure that we're intentional about these steps so that the two meet.
That you make a very good point, and the fact is that the practicality of where you are when you get this information
Hmm.
is going to impact how you digest it.
Hmm.
And I think one of the things that I want to do at Clear Journey is know and recognize that that is a that reality exists,
Hmm.
and to be able to assist when those conflicts come up, when those conflicts, because I think the end goal here is that fulfillment has to be, and that's what goes back to my example as it relates to when I was talking about my boss. Um, I want to be fulfilled. What it takes for me to be fulfilled might not be it's not going to be the same thing it takes for you to be fulfilled.
Hmm.
But collectively, I think we can work together where everybody gets fulfilled. Everybody gets there fulfilled. Everybody reaches that level of fulfillment in spite of what the bag is, you know, in
Hmm.
spite of what the, excuse me, in spite of what the bag is. So I think that just takes the collaboration. It takes this ideology, this mindset that we're in this thing together. And my fulfillment is in your fulfillment. It's in what you have and how we together connect together. Um, we can all be fulfilled. You know, this
Okay.
is the practicality of something that you and I know about as it relates to Love Entrepreneur.
Hmm.
It's that concept of actualizing that,
Yeah.
and that takes intentionality. It takes people desiring to want to, for everyone to be fulfilled,
Hmm.
not only mentally, physically, but physically, mental,
Hmm. Yep.
practically. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Yep.
Practically.
In a very tangible way. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's it. Let me just go through real quick. The last one is seek feedback. Um, and then the last one is adapt and evolve. And that's, feedback is always to getting people to tell you things that you don't know about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Mentors, colleagues, things that can help you in your performance, and then being able to adjust and adapt and evolve is being able to continue to grow. That's the gist of it. If we are honest and stay honest and true to our skills, our self-assessment, then we can have our dream careers. But it's a continual process that's intentional. And
Mm-hmm.
these steps is just an outline for how you can do these things for yourself. And everyone is for the individual. Mine is different than yours is different than mine, but together, collectively, we can assist in each other. Because all of that was how can we help one another become and reach our full potential?
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good for those of you who might be watching or watching the replay. If you didn't write these down, you can pause because I'm gonna go through them real quick in the next couple seconds. So get your note taking device out. We're talking about unlocking your dream career, a guide to identifying your ideal career. And there are 12 steps that you should be taking. And I'll go through them very quickly. First was self assessment. Second one is setting clear goals. Third one is you got to do your research. You got to get out there and learn and understand and find out. Skills and education is number four. Number five is networking. Number six is to gain experience. Number seven is create a career action plan. Number eight, update your resume and online presence. Number nine, apply strategically. Number 10, interview and evaluate. Number 11, seek feedback. And number 12, adapt and evolve.
Yeah, this month is about career and employment. It's about preparation for this journey called life. Um, that's what Clear Journey is about. And in this is one of the 8 areas that we have in Clear Journey. And we're going to continue for the month of December in this vein. Somehow or another, we're probably going to take one of these particular steps and just dig into them a little bit more so that you can get all out of it, as much out of it as you can. um, and so that's what we planning on do this month on It's Life Live. But all of these things are relevant as it relates to how we navigate life, because we spend a good portion of our lives working. And here's the old saying. I don't know if you've ever, I guess you've probably heard it, Oliver. He says, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Mhm.
That's what your dream career is. You know, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day of your life.
Mhm.
And that's the ideal scenario, because we're all going to spend so much time doing it
Right.
that when we get to that point called retirement, and to be honest with you, here I am technically retired, but I can't think of doing anything other than what I'm doing now.
Mhm.
And and I don't plan on stopping it.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. And I've been looking forward to this for the longest.
Mhm.
And so as I told a lot of people that when I retire, what are you going to do? I said, my life has just begun, because I'm going to
Uh,
actually get to the point where I can do what I love to do.
mhm.
And I'm hoping that everybody who hears about this, learns about this, and sees this can begin to pursue it at whatever level that they are, and
Mhm.
that they can have that kind of love for what they do.
Indeed. Awesome.
Anything else you'd like to share, Oliver?
No, I think that was a fantastic wrap up.
Well, tell people how they can find you and what you do.
You can find me if you are a social media person. Right beside my name, right there on the screen, is the social media handle. You can find me there everywhere. I'm an author, speaker, and coach, author of the book Overcoming the Man Laws for the Man Who Wants to Be His Best Despite What He Was Taught. I live in the relationship building and men's enrichment spaces with the goal being to share my journey so that it can encourage, inspire you on your journey, and you can build and maintain the relationship of your dreams. If you're an email person, shoot me an email, oliver@denali.org. Would love to have a conversation with you.
Hey, you guys. I'm Juan Lee. I am the founder of Clear Journey. And if you want to learn more about what we do and what we are all about, go over to clearjourney.org and learn more about what we have to offer there. We talk about 8 areas of life that we like to help you in navigating life successfully. It's about preparation. And it's at any point in time in your life that you need assistance, answers to some questions about life and how you can navigate it more successfully. Go over to clearjourney.org and we can help you get some of those answers. We have education and resources there, like Oliver, as a matter of fact. Oliver is a strategic partners of ours, and what we do is give you access to those that are our strategic partners so that they can assist you in your journey called life. Um, if you want to reach me, you can reach me at info@clearjourney.org. And I'm there. Just send me an email, and we will be happy to reach back out to you. And again, we are closing it in for the night. And as usual, you know, we can't change life, but we can help you navigate it. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Later.